Hello folks, I'm Milton Crabapple, and I'm a-cooking. Hello folks, I'm Milton Crabapple, and I've got a good show in store for you today, so pay a lot of attention. Now I've noticed through the years, it's come to my attention that there's lots of folks out there amongst us that don't know how to boil water. Now I know because I've asked them. I asked somebody, say, is your wife a good cook? They'll say, well, she can't boil water. Or, does your husband know how to cook? He couldn't boil water if he wanted to. So apparently there's a lot of folks out there that just don't know how to boil water. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to boil water the right way. So pay attention. Now there's three things you got to have if you want to boil water. You got to have a heat source. Now that's my stove top is my heat source. You got to have some containers that'll hold water, either metal or glass containers to boil water in. You can't boil water in a cardboard box or paper sack. And you got to have water. Now you can boil any kind of water. I'm going to boil some water out of the sink in a minute and show you how to do it, but you can use water out of the tap. You can use water out of a garden hose. You can use creek water, distilled water, purified water, mineral water. You can boil any kind of water. You got to have a container, you got to have a heat source, and you got to have water. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some water in this pan. I'm just going to turn on the water, and I'm not going to put a lot of water in there because I don't need any. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. So that's probably enough water right there to boil just to show you how to do it, so you'll get the idea. If you ain't never boiled water before, this will give you a good idea how to do it. So let's go back to the stove top. All right, I got my water in this pan. I'm setting it on the stove top. Now I'm setting it right over this burner. I'm going to kind of center it over the burner good, and then I'm just going to turn on the heat. There we go. Now we got the flame turned on. Now, it don't matter if you got a big flame or a small flame, the water's eventually going to boil if it gets up to 212 degrees. Water won't boil till it gets to 212 degrees. So if you want to boil it fast, you run the heat up high. If you want to boil it slow, you just keep it down low. But it won't boil till it gets to 212 degrees. Now, if you put water on there and leave it for a long time, go look at it, and it ain't bubbling inside and frothing up, and there ain't steam coming off of it, that means it ain't boiling. That means it ain't reached 212 degrees yet. So you got to be patient. So we're going to let this sit here till it starts boiling, and then we'll be back and take a look at it. Well, folks, that didn't take long. As you can see, the water's just boiling away. You can see it down in there. You got steam starting to come off of it, and it's hot. Now, there's a lot of things you can cook in boiling water. You can boil eggs, you can boil meat, you can boil vegetables, all kind of things. Boiled water is good for disinfecting things too, and helping clean cast iron skillets and all. And here's the key. Now, you can boil any kind of water you want to boil. This is water right out of my tap, but you can boil spring water, water out of a garden hose, distilled water, purified water, all kinds of water will boil. So it ain't just a matter of one kind of water. But anyhow, that's good boiling water now. And if you don't know how to boil water, or if you didn't know how to boil water before, you ought to know how now. It's real simple. You got to have a container, you got to have a heat source, and you got to have water. We'll let that boil a little while so you can get a good look at it and see what it's doing. Well, there you have it, folks. I just showed you how to boil water. Now, you don't have to go through life not knowing how to do it. I'm using some of that boiled water here to have me a cup of tea. Sometimes on these cold winter days, a good cup of hot tea is good for the arthritis, good to get the joints moving again. And you know, I was sitting here thinking about this tea, and fella I used to have tea with a lot. I talked to him the other day. He's been sick for a while. And he called me, he'd been to the doctor, and he said they'd done some tests on him, and they said they didn't give him but 6 months to live. He come by and told me about it. He said, I'm just kind of in shock. He said, I don't know what to do. I said, well, I sure hate to hear that news. He said, what would you do if you found out you just had 6 months to live? Well, I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, I'll be honest with you now. I said, if I found out I just had 6 months to live, I said, I'd go home. I'd sell out everything I got, lock, stock, and barrel. And I said, I'd move off down to South Georgia and find me some old woman live out in the swamps with 7 or 8 young'uns from 2 or 3 different marriages. And I said, I'd hook up with her and I'd marry her. And I'd go into the farming business, raising pigs. He said, well, what in tarnation would I want to do a thing like that for? I said, well, now, it won't cure whatever it is that's ailing you, but I said, I'll guarantee you one thing. It'll make them 6 months seem like a lifetime. Yes, sir. I'm Milton Crabapple, and thanks for watching this episode of I'm a Cooking. Be sure to visit MiltonCrabapple.com. Check out all my CDs, DVDs, and downloads. Become a member of my fan club. Visit the website today. Much obliged.